evening. Today is November 19th, 2025. I now call the Sherborn Board of Health meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. This is a virtual meeting, and per open meeting law, board members are required to announce their presence. We shall do so via alphabetical roll call.
Daryl Beardsley, present.
Steve Constantine, present.
Julie Dreyfus, present.
Diana Hook, present.
Rebecca Honeywell, present.
All right, we have everyone. Does anyone have an unanticipated item within the last 48 hours that requires urgent attention before our next meeting where we need to amend the agenda? I'm hearing and seeing nothing, correct? Yep. All right, excellent. So the agenda will stand as posted. Tonight we have one variance hearing at 7:30. We do not have chairs or agents business tonight. And we do have a number of other business items. And I think, why don't we, Sarah, if you are, hang on, I gotta toggle so I can see you, Sarah. If you are ready to do so, why don't we take the initial review of new proposed permit fees first? So the board, just a little background for the board. If you recall, it was at least one, probably really 2 years ago, we acknowledged that we need to revisit our permit fees to adjust them accordingly, which we should be doing from time to time. We brought this to shared services for support, and the other towns in shared services also felt like they needed to have a tool to look at their permit fees and to adjust. And through a consultant hired by shared services, they generated a calculation tool. And now that we have Sarah, she has been using that tool. In addition, has brought in additional information, including comparing other communities, looking at the hours spent. She's done a tremendous amount of work in collaboration with Mark and Jean and Tom to really analyze kind of where our permit fees are now and where we should be adjusting them to. So she's going to give some background. And the follow-up to this will be after we kind of look at this, if we feel when we're ready, if there's any adjustments we feel like need to be made, we'll do that. But then we'll be moving into a public hearing phase to adjust our permit fee. So it'll have to be posted and notified, and we can talk about that process. All right, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, Julie. So I have a few quick notes before we get started. Jean brought to my attention today that it is possible we might not actually have to do a public hearing for permit fees. It was discussed in 2012, the last time permit fees were looked at. She did give me some material to review, some previous minutes that I just have not had a chance to look at yet. So once I get the firm understanding if we need to do a public hearing or not, I will let you know sort of the update on that. And I have a presentation that explains everything I did if the board would be interested in seeing that, or I can just show the new fees. It's up to you guys. I can just start the presentation.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? I'm not sure. Are you screen sharing, Sarah?
No.
Again.
So that's what I was gonna ask if I could. No.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yep, please. Okay. So this is just a really very bare bones explanation of what I did to get to the numbers that I'm going to share with you today. So there were 4 steps that I did. As Julie did outline, that I used the calculator tool that was created by, it was originally created in Needham with shared services, but now it is all over Massachusetts. I looked at all the surrounding towns and similar towns that have similar needs and demographics as us. I did an in-depth analysis, and then this morning, the staff and I got together and went through each one by one. So the way the calculator works is you determine the hourly rate for all environmental health work, which is a formula that calculates the overall environmental health budget, full-time equivalent personnel, and total annual work hours. which I calculated as such. I have more in-depth information about these calculations, which I can share at the end of the presentation if that would be something you're interested in looking at. But essentially, our overall environmental health budget over the next 5 fiscal years, so that's FY27 to FY31, is on average $239,340 a year. And these are our employees that we have budgeted in our in our personnel. And what you see here is the full-time equivalent based on a 40-hour work week and the percent of that time that is spent working on environmental health work, whether that is permitting, processing a permit, sending out variance notices, processing incoming applications, updating applications, anything that has to do with an environmental health related permit is considered environmental health work. So that's about 50% of my time. It's about 90% of Jean's time, which is our administrative assistant. And it's 100% of our agent, inspector, and supplemental agent. So we have about 2 full-time equivalent employees doing environmental health work. This is the total projected annual work hours. Again, this is calculated based on a 40-hour work week of a full-time employee. This is a little bit different because 3 of our 5 employees don't have the benefited hours. So it was a little bit more complicated, but I did consult with the consultant. It was kind of weird to say, to see if it was still appropriate for me to do it in this fashion. And she said that it was. So this is how that's calculated. All benefited full-time employees have 10 vacation days a year, 3 personal days, 12 sick days, and 12 federal holidays, each of which are 8 hours. So you calculate them in hours. So the second part of this, using the MHOA calculator, was determining how long each application, permit, processing takes. So we started from the very beginning, which is processing the application, which is done on the administrative side, to the Board of Health meeting, which is the very end of any given application, because there are employees who have to be present to present those to the board. And we did have to take that into account because that is part of the process. So this is all that work kind of compiled into one. This is every single fee that we charge, how much time it takes for us to do the administrative side, how much time it takes for the agent to review the plan, the pre-construction meeting for if those are applicable, how long an inspection takes, how long on average we spend in the Board of Health meetings talking about these plans, summed up in minutes divided by 60, multiplied by the hourly rate to get a raw calculated fee. And the guidance from MHOA, all permit fees are just rounded to the next nearest $10. So if it was, even if it was like $150.67, it would get rounded to 160. That's just what they say is recommended. So that's what I did here as well. To get these numbers for timing, I used a combination of actually sitting down and speaking with all of our staff members. And I also went and looked through timesheets, Board of Health recordings from meetings to get accurate times on meeting times. I looked at how long an inspection actually takes according to timesheets and things of that nature. And times that are blocked off on agent schedules to actually have these meetings or do these inspections. So it was a mix of qualitative and quantitative information. So then I went and I looked at the fee schedules for Dover, Medfield, Millis, Ashland, Natick, Medway, and Needham, because those are our direct neighboring towns. I did not include Framingham because they have a very different situation than we do in terms of their just basic demographics and how their water is done. They have public everything. So I did not include Framingham, but I did include Carlisle because they are very similar in the fact that they are mostly, if not 100% well and septic in their town. And they just also have a very similar demographic to our board in general with their staff. So it's a very easy comparison. And that's how we got to these numbers. So again, we have all of the permits listed here. the calculated fee, current fee, and then the average fee in the surrounding towns. So I added and found the average for all of the fees in the aforementioned towns to find out sort of what the average was. There was a wide variety. Some towns were charging upwards of $2,000 for a new construction plan, while other towns only charged $300. So that was really important to take into consideration as well. That range isn't reflected here, but it was discussed in detail with the rest of the staff, which is this step here, where we went through each and every single line from that analysis to determine how we can make sure that we are most in alignment with the calculated cost of service, the calculated permit fee, the current fee schedule, and the average fee in similar towns and municipalities. We found for some permits that had to be drastically increased, we looked for permits that had sort of equitable reduction so that we're not creating a completely imbalanced fee schedule. And we wanted to make sure that we were also being conscious of the fact that Sherborn is very unique in our needs and how much time it takes us to review certain plans because of our regulations. And then the last thing we did was we just made sure that our fees were not excessive in comparison to surrounding towns. So the final estimated difference in revenue is about an 11.4% increase. So it's about $7,710 additional dollars in permits. And I can show that calculation as well, how we got there. We used the information from FY25 to identify approximately how many of each permit we did. And we were able to then get this number through that. But there is an important note about the building permit application review fees. So currently it's 2% of the building permit application cost. It is either 2% or $25, whichever is greater, goes to the Board of Health from the building department. In 2024, 68 building permit applications were reviewed by the board and our agent, and the average payment was about $54.79 for a total of $3,725.44. However, based on the average length of time it takes for the plans to be reviewed and for the time it takes in a meeting to go over them with our agent as well, our hourly calculation comes out to be around $130. Today I spoke with our agent Mark, there he is, hi Mark, our building commissioner Chris Canny, to sort of figure out a potential way we can remedy this, and we bounced around a lot of ideas. What we determined, because there are so many different types of building permit applications, it was best determined between the three of us that the solution is to look at all of our building permits that the Board of Health reviews, identify the common themes in them. So some of them can take 15 minutes and some of them can take multiple days to look at. So we're going to be charging a baseline fee based on those elements. So for example, if there is absolutely no septic interference at all, but it still needs to be reported by the Board of Health, that's going to be a lower fee than if it's an addition that alters the room count and it needs to go to a meeting. And that is a work in progress as well. That's going to take some time for the three of us to work together and talk about and figure out a solution. So that is the end of the slideshow that I have that sort of shows all of the steps that we got. And I will pull up here the new proposed fee schedule that also compares the previous fees, and I can answer any questions that we have. We do have about 11 minutes until the variance hearing, so I just want to keep that in mind, but I'm going to just pull this up now. Okay.
What if they apply for a building permit and then they fail their septic review, and then it has to come to a meeting.
That is why the building permits are a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if it might be better to have it be slightly higher for most of them, and then have an additional fee when it becomes complicated, rather in order to cover that possibility, because I think we're going to get into, I don't know. Obviously, I need you guys can tell me your thoughts are, but I'm wondering if it might be perceived better if it's more uniform across a large number, but then when it gets really complicated, have an additional increase in the rate, because otherwise I think it's going to be constantly changing and people are going to get annoyed, and it's going to put you in an awkward position, or else whoever the person is who has to communicate that information to the builder. I
We
don't
did talk about that and about how it might be easier to just keep it one baseline fee and then a percentage because that's most accurate representation. But we decided for someone to have a deck review that takes 5 minutes for us to take a quick look at and see, okay, it's not over the septic and sign off on it. It's not fair to ask them to pay the same amount as someone who has a more complicated review, but they both still meet the $25 minimum. And we just determined that that's not really fair of us to be asking people to do that, and it's not reflective of the work that we're doing. And we wanted to make sure that we're getting the appropriate compensation for the amount of work that the board puts into these
Yeah,
applications.
I mean, I think it's as long as it's communicated to the homeowners, I think that it would be great. I mean, we can basically say somewhere in the beginning, just so you know, if you fail your septic, the rate will go up, or something like that.
Yeah, so it will all be reflected in the building application. So it kind of also goes hand in hand with the fact that they're updating our application software. Really quickly, I did want to point out, you'll see in the bottom here, it says star new fees. There are 3 additional fees that we determined between Ian, Mark, and myself. That is the disposal works installer permit initial. That is because it takes a significantly longer time. It takes about an extra hour for us to contact the references, and that's not being reflected in the straight fee. So now there is the initial installer permit fee and then the renewal fee. So if we've already contacted references, we don't need to do that again. You'll also see that there is an additional food permit fee for multi-vendor establishments, temporary establishments. Again, that is because the previous multi-vendor temporary establishment was $150, which equated to about 3 temporary establishments, but the permit was for 7. So we switched it up a little bit, and now it is reflective of 6 establishments. You get 1 sort of looped in there as well. And for any additional establishment, it's an extra $30, which is half the price of a temporary establishment. And you'll also see on the bottom of the permit application septic systems, there's a new fee for both variances. So if someone has Title V and local regulations, instead of only paying for Title V variance, they'll pay a combined fee of $300, which is less than if they were to pay local regs and a Title V variance fee, the $30 difference, whereas previously we were only charging the higher of the two, so the $150. And then there's also an innovative technology review fee for $150 because plans that include innovative technology take longer to review and they require more research and more discussion. There are some cases that people will say, well, we do a lot of the same technology a lot of the time. However, it's not reasonable to say, well, some technologies are going to get charged while some aren't. So we just want to make that aware in the board, and that is pretty consistent across all of the towns we looked at. So septic plants that use innovative technology generally cost anywhere from $300 to $600 more in other towns. So that's where that came from. So these are the new fees proposed, if anyone has any questions.
First, we need to say thank you, Sarah, and to
Thank you.
and to Mark and to Jean and to Tom, and Chris and everyone who's participated in this. This is a overdue, needed analysis, and it looks like you guys have put a tremendous amount of thought into it.
Yeah, the
Um,
majority of the work was done by Sarah, excuse me, and she did an excellent job in my view. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Mark. Diana, do you have a question?
Yes, and also an observation question that I find it the current fees, correct me, were established 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I find it curious that there's a number of items that have decreased in price. So I realized 12 years ago was way before your time. I'm just wondering, how did those current fees, what was the basis for establishing those fees?
That's really fair to bring up. So that was sorry, for the fees, for the proposed fees that are lower than the current fees, that was really a combination of the fact that our adjacent towns were significantly lower than our fee and our calculated fees were significantly lower. So the cost of, let's say, for an example, one that is lower are the plan revisions. No other town is charging any fee for those. So our fee is automatically significantly more than, say, Carlisle or Dover. They don't charge that because it's included in their fee. And then when we calculated the time that it actually takes for a review, it wasn't reflected in the fee schedule and it wasn't defensible to have those numbers be what we were charging. So that's one example. Similar to like a revision to a previously approved plan, for us to be charging significantly more than what other towns are charging, and there's a long conversation that was had about market value of permit fees and the volume that we're doing and how much work actually goes into them. And also there's that's how that happened. We looked at the calculated fee, the current fee, and then the average of all of our surrounding towns. And we were like, if it was significantly higher, our current fees were significantly higher, then what we would do is we would take the average between the significantly higher fee and either the surrounding town or the calculated fee to kind of find a middle ground that reflected our needs as a town better. And then does that answer your question?
Yes, and Daryl, if I may ask just one more question, that
Please do.
when you were doing the calculations and you were talking about, and I'm looking at the time that was like 1.96 FTE that went into the work, that I'm curious that, and my reference is where my dad worked in California, where the department fees paid for the staff.
mm.
So that is part
He
of
did
what
think the fees were exorbitant. He did. But on the other hand, it paid for his salary.
So that is part of where this sort of started with my motivation to do the review, is with budget season approaching and reviewing our budget, seeing that we were going over budget every year for the past several years in our personnel and our staff. And I was sort of discussing this with our director of finance about the best way to support the fact that the Board of Health is going to be requesting more in the beginning so that we don't have to dip into the fund at the end, is to show that we're going to have any sort of increase in revenue, which is reflected in our permit fees. So that's sort of why they include the salary and full-time equivalent. And then Daryl, and then we should probably go to the hearing.
Yeah, actually, I have a few like little things, but we could discuss that outside of a meeting, or I'll just send you my thoughts. Sarah, and you could work it out with the staff. But I'm just wondering if there should be any notation. You do have some, I forget what was, there's some things that are noted as annual, but there might be annual, a limited time. We do have some seasonal food permits, for example, or one-time events, things that are, for instance, like a building application or a plan review. And other things might be indefinite, like once you get it, it's forever, but I don't know. But I'll just throw that out, whether there's any additional notation to include on here to help make things more clear. I think it's mostly quite clear, but there are a few things that might not be as clear to
It's
people.
definitely something that I think is really worth talking about, especially because we've had questions, you know, how long does my permit last for? It does say so in the applications, but I think including sort of a guide to applying for a permit in Sherborn could be really helpful for residents and external applicants for food permits and such. However, it is 7:30 and I know that we have our variance hearing, so if anyone else has questions and they want to bring it back up at the end of the meeting, I will leave that up to you guys, but I'm gonna stop.
So I don't forget to mention it later.
My screen.
For example, we usually do annual on calendar year as opposed to 1 year from the date that someone applies for something. So that's another distinction just to make clear. Thanks.
Excellent.
And Steve, I can share the variance document so that you can just pay attention.
Sounds good. If we can see if we need to circle back if anyone has questions after we do the variance hearing. All right, can I confirm either Mark or Sarah that we have all the green cards for this hearing?
I'll leave that up to Sarah.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
And we do have the designer as well as the homeowner on this Zoom meeting.
Okay, excellent. So now at 7:31 p.m., I open the variance hearing for 84 Old Orchard Road for Philip and Samantha Reisinger. Please correct me if I'm saying your names wrong. And representing them tonight is engineer Eric Dickinson of Civilized Solutions. Good evening, Eric. Do you want to go ahead and is it easier for you? Is it easier for you, Eric,
Yes.
if you share the plan and can point to things, or what would you prefer?
I'll try to share it. Last time I screwed it up. Let me try.
Whatever is easier for you.
Let me try it. Let's see. Is
And
that working?
Starting to. There it is.
Okay. So this is, I'm Eric Dickinson with Civilized Solutions. This is 84 Old Orchard Road. This is a 4-bedroom, single-family house. The reason we're here is they had a failed Title V in the front, right here in this bubble area. It's a failed septic system. They have a well in the back. It's pretty up gradient. The only other wells within 400 feet is the neighbor, the abutter to the north. And then there's also one down here that you don't see to the east. This site was very, very difficult. If you've ever been down Old Orchard towards Washington Street, there's a lot of ledge, a lot of boulders, a lot of outcrop and trees, a lot of trees in through here. So I chose to keep the system outside of the well buffers as best I could. We ended up doing 5 test pits, Mark and I, and it was what we expected. There was a refusal within about 6 feet in every hole. I think test pit number 4 even had it. I think we only got down 2 feet. We were able to do 2 percolation tests, or I was. One in the B layer and one in the C layer, so I did get the correct amount of soil necessary. I decided to use an IA technology called Presby. This technology gets I don't do a lot of these, but it's perfect for this type of situation. It's a bed. It gets a 40% reduction to groundwater. It's and 40% reduction in size and a reduction to groundwater. Given those constraints, there were some variances, and I could go through those. One thing I should mention, though, that the percolation rate for the BW was consistent. The B layer, that's consistent with what we usually see. That was about 2 minutes per inch. The C layer, however, went really fast for this type of soil. This is a type 2. This is a sandy loam type soil. It was very difficult to get a percolation test dug in this type of soil because it's so rocky and so many cobbles and boulders. But I did get one in right here, but it was not consistent with that type of a soil. It was more like a sand. It went less than 2 minutes per inch. So what I'm thinking happened is the water found a void somewhere in those in the rock and cobbles, and ended up being not really consistent with that type of soil. So when I designed it, I used 3 feet to groundwater, which you're allowed to go 2 feet with this type of system. So that would be consistent with the sand. But I used a loading rate that was consistent with a sandy loam, which is it's a 0.6, which can go all the way up to 10 minutes per inch. So the system sized for the sand, or for the type of soil that's out there, but the offset to groundwater is more of a sand. So it's a more conservative approach. I don't know if you want to go through the variances now, but that's about it. Over here, if I had gone over here, it's very, very, it almost looks like someone dug out of here at one time, and it's just ledge and boulders. So I was pretty limited to just this area right here.
And just so the board knows, I spoke to Eric on the issue with the perk test. Perk test by face value would indicate that this is a sand, which it's not. It's a loomy sand. It's not even, I mean, a sandy loam. It's not even a loomy sand.
Right.
And he did design, as he noted, at the design level you would do for a sandy loam. At the same time, the distance to the well, our requirements are if the perk rate's less than 3 minutes per inch, you have to increase the distance to a well by 25 feet. In this case, us both being soil evaluators, I would say that that would not apply here based on the fact that I believe the perk test in that C layer was probably being affected by all the boulders, and probably the perk was very close to maybe some type of a setter in the soil and so forth, which allowed it to
Yeah.
go faster than what we both evaluated this soil to be. So I just wanted to note that.
I should also note too that the abutters have the radiuses of a is that correct? Yeah, they have the radius of a less than 2.
Mhm.
175 downhill, 150, is that right? Yeah. Yep.
That's right.
It's just the on-site well has the radius of a sandy loam, or a greater than 3.
Right. How about we go ahead and review the variances, and then we'll take questions from the board.
Okay. You want me I'll read through them. The first variance is, they're all to the Sherborn rules and regs, the local regulations. The first one is section 1.2, builder's responsibility, and I know you've changed these since then, but I'm stuck in the old way. Just as when I saw your fee rates, I'm gonna get all screwed up. But the first one is to allow the leaching bed except beds using IE systems with pressure dosing. This is passive. It does not have pressure dosing. The Presby Advanced Enviro Septic Gravity Bed System provides advanced secondary treatment of effluent. The AES, abbreviation, treatment system has been proven to remove 99% of the wastewater impurities without the need for electricity or media. Therefore, it's providing a level of equivalent environmental protection. The second variance is 8.01 vertical grades and clearances. To allow the bottom of the soil absorption system, SAS, to be installed 3 feet above the seasonal high groundwater versus 5 feet to reduce site disturbances. Limiting retaining walls. There still is a small 2.5 foot cobble type wall along the front here. Setbacks and buffer encroachments. The use of a Presby environmental system allows for the separation of groundwater to be reduced to 3 feet. That goes back to what we were talking about. It's probably 2. You can go 2 with a sandy loam, which this is, but I held 3. Per the DEP's remedial use approval, last revised March, whatever. DEP approval is not required. No additional flow. They're not adding bedrooms above the 4 bed. And there's an effluent filter in the proposed septic tank. The third one is 8.02 vertical grades and clearances to allow the SAS to be in an area with less than 5 feet of natural grade above high groundwater. We barely had 5 feet above refusal in a couple of them. And the last one, section 8.02 vertical grades and clearances to allow the SAS to be constructed in an area with less than 6 feet above bedrock, ledge, fractured ledge, or impervious soil. All 5 of them, I mean, a couple of them are close, yielded impervious material less than 6 feet below grade. So those were the variances requested. There's something unique about, I should mention, about the Presby. When it comes to garbage disposals, they're permitted by DEP without increasing the sizing or anything else. It's kind of unusual, but in the design manual it says they are permitted. You are allowed to use a garbage disposal. I believe that they've removed it or they don't have one. I'm not certain on that.
Eric, that's correct. We had it removed.
Okay.
But
you-
it's also true that this doesn't meet the conditions that the system is normally designed to function maximally at. So especially if we're giving variances, it's better not to have that
Yes,
variable to make it worse.
correct.
Okay, Daryl, I see your hand.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that really this is in apparently the only spot that one
Yes.
could position this from everything, one from the well setbacks, which is very important, and then just the only other remaining land is, as you said, too much refusal. So to go that deep. That's one thing. And then it sounds like for the perk rate situation, really you've designed the system conservatively based on a more normal expected perk rate for these kinds of soils, correct? And then there's the extra foot between the bottom of the system and groundwater. Am I reading that right?
Yes. Absolutely. So
Okay.
I conservatively designed it.
All right, so that seems okay to me, and reasonable, the explanation of why you got an unexpected perk rate from this. And then the last thing is, I think the Presby system doesn't unconditionally remove up to 90 or 99%. I think it terms it more up to 99%, which could mean that there's one that sometimes might reach 99% and others might be 0. So
Yeah.
otherwise people would wonder why we didn't put Presby in every single property in town.
Good
So
catch.
I just wanted to clarify that it's not a magical system. So
Right. Like you could drink the water or something from it.
right.
Daryl,
I'm
is
done.
that, yes, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thanks. So first time I've come across Presby system, but there's a lot of information on it online that I read into it. Um, what I couldn't find though is like what kind of maintenance is required with a system like this, and how often is that maintenance performed?
It's just it's like a standard septic system. You just pump the tank every 2 years. Yeah, that's not.
You
They
don't have
say,
to do anything with the in the trench?
I'm sorry, what?
With the trenches, you don't have to do anything there to maintain that?
No, nothing at all. They
Okay.
actually say that it's a serial system. So this is one, there's only one outlet in the D box and it goes around, snakes back and forth. If these go into failure, they say that you can open one end and open the other and let the air in there, the oxygen, and it rejuvenates it. I'm not sure if that would work, but
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Eric.
yeah,
But Eric, would they need to clean their Zabel filter annually? Or-
yes, yeah. I think about all, yeah, that's supposed to be that's an interesting topic in itself. They want you to clean the Zabel filters every year, but you pump the tank every 2 years. So um
So you
I
can you can hire someone to come out every year and clean the filter, or potentially you could learn to clean it yourself. But that
Right.
would be
Well, and if
something
I
you
can
want.
add, our regulations state that you shall inspect your septic
uh,
tank once a year and if needed, pump it out. So during the
right.
time of cleaning out the effluent, if they see that maybe a family of 8 people were living there, they might see
Yeah.
the need to pump out the septic tank. So we have an advisement we put on the as-built that's posted in the basement with that same language, just so the homeowners know they should at least inspect once a year and if pumped. And the effluent filter as well, we put a statement on about the effluent filter as well, that it needs annual maintenance. So it's pretty much covered for routine maintenance.
I'd recommend pumping it once a year anyway. I mean, maybe I'm in the business, but these things are expensive, so it's well worth it.
An ounce of prevention. You went through for me, Eric, and answered the questions that I had regarding the unexpected perk rate relative to the soil class. So thank you for explaining that. I like Daryl, can understand given the amount of refusal that you found in all the test holes.
Yeah,
And just having hiked on that Bailey Trail very, very frequently know that, yes, there's almost certainly boulders there.
yeah,
So that makes a lot of sense. And I think if we're piling on the maintenance train here and looking at what's posted here at DEP in terms of design, installation, and then kind of ongoing maintenance, it does talk about system abuse conditions and it does talk about solids and high volume. And I think that goes back to, well, maybe you're allowed to have a garbage grinder. It's never a good idea for any system. And so I would encourage the homeowners and any future homeowners of this property to not put in a garbage grinder. You will be saving the investment that's being made here if you don't. But I don't have any other additional questions. It is clear that this is a very constrained site with very constrained conditions, just given the number of boulders. So, actually, I do have one question.
yeah.
So with because I too was trying to read into the Presby system, it's new to me. When they go to excavate the leaching field, the impervious surface that they're finding down, that you found down there at that 6 feet, that's going to remain and the system is slightly mounded up, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. They don't have to take that out and replace it with septic sand.
right.
Okay. That's good visualization for the homeowners to know that in advance.
By
Um,
also I should say by using the BW too, you get some of the organics in that layer. So I by perk testing that, by doing a percolation test in that layer, we're able to keep that. So that'll provide also some protection.
Excellent. That's excellent. Okay. Um, Rebecca, you have questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that I think we might want to put a note on this case that because there's no possible way they can reach the conditions under which the maximum function of this style system can function, that I don't think a garbage grinder is a good idea. You know, because I think that it might sound like, oh, well, with this system, we won't be able to have it, but that it might not be clear to people that it has to be installed under the perfect conditions for it to possibly work in Sherborn. And it's not under those perfect conditions because of the characteristics of the site.
I agree.
So it's not even it shouldn't even be a consideration because of Sherborn's geology and this particular site. And the variances that are being requested are examples of the reasons that this might not work the way everybody would like it to.
Well, the DEP remedial use approval allows a garbage grinder, but we're just saying, while it may be allowed, it still doesn't make it a good idea.
Yeah, no, I'm just reinforcing what you said.
Yeah.
The reasons that because of the request of the variances, it makes it even less likely that it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
I
it
agree
sounds
with
like
that.
the homeowners are cognizant of that already if they've removed a previously installed garbage grinder. Do we have other questions
When we
from
get
board
to,
members?
oops, sorry.
I was going to see if we have questions from board members, because then I was going to go to homeowners and abutters, but I'm looking for other board members. Anyone
I
else?
was just going to say, with respect to what we we're just talking about, when we get to approving the plan, and there, I presume will be a deed recording for the IA technology, we could consider whether we want to amend the language of that deed recording to say that, you know, a garbage grinder is not recommended for both the lifetime of service and the performance of the system.
Okay, that's a possibility.
Just so the board knows, my audio is breaking up a little bit, but I thought I heard Darrell say that in addition to the deed recording, because they're going to need a deed recording for the innovative alternative technology, that being the Presby system. I think that's not a bad idea to have that statement on there that a garbage grinder, although allowed, is not recommended.
Yeah. Maybe we're prematurely talking about conditions. Why don't we go to, I have another potential condition to add in here, but why don't we go to first homeowners and then abutters? So Mr. or Ms. Rissinger, do you have any questions or comments for the board?
No, we'd just like to thank Eric for his efforts on this. It seems like it was not an easy one.
No.
So thank you, and thank you guys for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any abutters present? I don't think I see anyone else here. Yes. All right, we have no further abutters. So why don't we go through the variances and then we can talk about if the plan is ready for approval in said conditions. So why don't we start with the first one? Do I have a motion to approve a variance to section 1.2 builder's responsibility that will allow leaching beds given the Presby Advanced Enviroseptic gravity bed system uses beds rather than trenches?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
It's seconded.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Keith Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Can I have a motion to section 8.01 vertical grades and clearances to allow the bottom of the SAS to be installed 3 feet above seasonal high groundwater versus the required 5 feet?
So moved.
So moved. Seconded then?
Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Do I have a motion to approve the variance to section 8.02, also vertical grades and clearances, to allow the SES to be in an area with less than 5 feet of natural grade above high groundwater?
So moved.
Seconded?
Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
And finally, do I have a motion to approve a variance to section, again, 8.02 vertical grades and clearances to allow the SAS to be constructed in an area with less than 6 feet above impervious material such as bedrock or ledge?
So moved.
Seconded?
Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
All right, and with that, all of the variances have passed and now close the hearing. Mark, are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, the plans are ready for approval, conditional to a deed recording for the innovative alternative technology being used, that being the Presby.
Thank you.
All right, and we were going to potentially amend that recording to say that a garbage grinder is allowed but not recommended. Correct?
I would just leave it,
Uh,
a garbage grinder is not recommended, but that's up to the
It's not
board.
recommended.
Just leave it at that.
Daryl, you were the one who had the language idea or wordsmithing.
Right, I just didn't know, since the goal of this sounds like the current residents understand that importance, that they don't have a garbage grinder now, but do we need it to be a little more educational of a statement? Someone who read that, a future owner, might look at it and not really know why that is even a recommendation. So that's why I mentioned the both the performance of the system overall and its life expectancy, or lifetime of service, or length of service,
Mhm.
however we choose to. I don't know how that's commonly referred to,
Hmm.
Eric and Mark.
All right.
I think the deed recording and the posting of the as-built with the warning statements, I'll call them that, is that will help out with the education of the new homeowners. And at least it allows them to know that that a garbage grinder is not recommended, and that's an IA technology, and it requires once a year inspection of the tank, and if needed, pumped, as well as the effluent filter will require annual maintenance. And those are stickers we post on the as-built prior to posting the as-built, so it educates not just the present owner, but the future owners.
Yeah.
Do you think part of their reason for feeling that a garbage grinder would be acceptable to use the system is the presence of the filter? But by not having a garbage grinder, perhaps filter cleanouts or changes would be less frequent?
That's a good question, Darrell. I really don't know what the authorities in Boston who approved this technology, all of them, I don't see this in other technologies, but why they allowed for Presby to be considered for a garbage grinder. I really don't know what the process was on that, and what type of evidence that the company may have provided in respect to a garbage grinder. I'm not for sure of the answer.
Okay, So maybe
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the simplest statement of garbage grinder is not recommended. Leave it at that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we will, that sounds good. The other potential condition I'd have is just a note be added to the plan about the conservative design, the fact that you had the long-term acceptance rate at the 0.6 for the sandy loam, even though you had the perk at less than 3 MPI. And that's why the on-site well is does not have that additional 25 feet setback that is usually required. I feel like it would be nice to somehow capture that on the plan as a note. Mark, I would certainly welcome your help in wording that.
Yeah, that could be added to the approval as well as added to the as-built that will have to be drawn up by the designer after the installation and final grading.
Okay.
So is to the approval and to the as-built?
Yeah, that would be nice to have that just so people know it was designed in a conservative way. And also, it it would allow them to realize that conservative approach does not allow for any additional flow. These systems have to be designed for the existing bedroom count. So that's important that if we're going to note that it was a conservative system, in no way is that for any additional bedrooms. I think that's very important to make a note on that in case someone may get not more or less confused that, well, I have additional capacity. Why can't I put an additional bedroom? That's not what the case was here, based on the soil types. So some type of recognition on the as-built would be important.
Okay.
Noting that the no additional bedrooms on the as-built, not on the approved plan. Did I hear you right? Right, Mark?
Yes,
On the
yes.
as-built.
Yeah, I said the as-built, yes.
Yep, okay. Okay,
I like that point. It's a good one to bring up
yeah,
because that additional sizing is to counterbalance the unexpected perk rate. Really, so it's not standing on its own.
all right. I'm gonna attempt a motion and then I will take friendly amendments because I am not an expert at making these. Do I have a motion to approve the plan as presented tonight for 84 Old Orchard Street with the following conditions? 1, the receipt of a deed recording for innovative alternative technology, noting that a garbage grinder is not recommended. 2, the added note on both the approved plan and the as-built that the system was designed conservatively for a Class 2 soil. And this is why the additional setback to the on-site well, given the perk rate, was not required. And 3, also a note on the as-built that no additional bedrooms will be permitted on the system. I'm not sure if I got that last one quite right. Anyone have friendly language amendments to that?
I thought the additional setback was to a neighboring well, not the on-site well. Did I get that wrong?
The abutters wells have the added 25 that we would typically expect with the fast perk rate. The on-site
Yep.
well is at 127.9 versus 150, given it's uphill. And as Eric explained, the perk rate doesn't.
No, I just thought in your amendment you said the additional setback for the on-site well.
Did I say on-site or
I
did I
heard
forget
wrong.
it? On-site. It should say on-site well.
Yes.
Okay. If I did not say on-site well in note number 2, I intended on-site well. Thank you, Daryl.
You might have. I just wasn't positive.
We're gonna see if the AI can discern this in the meeting minutes. All right. All right, those are the three conditions as stated. Do I have the motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second,
Any further discussion or clarification? Hearing none.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric, for
Thank
your
you.
time. Good luck to the homeowners, Mr. and Miss Rizinger. I wish you the best of luck with your installation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Thanks
care.
so much. Have a
Let
good
me-
night.
I can stop sharing now. Okay. Have a good night.
Nay.
Before we move on to our few other pieces of business, did anyone have lingering questions or comments regarding the permit fees and the adjustments? That I know Sarah was kind of in the middle of describing how she came to some of the increases and the decreases. Does anybody have questions on that? No. So Sarah, it sounds like you are going to be looking into whether or not we do require a public hearing for the adjustment of these. I think that that could even be a question to DEP or town council, but I certainly turn to Mark and Daryl for guidance on that. Just to clarify, I think in general, having a public hearing or notice that there's going to be a fee change is helpful, especially to engineers.
I
But
would have to look at the 2012 minutes to see what was said. It could have been maybe that the board found some loophole, but I've always been informed that these fees are considered regulations and require a public hearing, but it could have changed. It could have changed over the years. That I'm not for sure of, but I'd be glad to research with Sarah the minutes of 2012 to see what they say. And I guess Jean brought this up, so I'd ask her, if she could also help locate the decision of the board back 13 years ago.
Yeah, Mark, Jean pulled the minutes and actually already put them together for me. I just didn't have a chance to review them today. So when I don't know if you'll be in the office tomorrow.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know like the little mailbox on the wall behind my desk?
What's that again?
The little mailbox on the wall behind my desk.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
They're in there.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, that'll be interesting. I recall Ellen mentioning when we were talking about updating permit fees a couple of years ago that she said we had to remember that it had to go to public hearing. So be curious if something has changed. And I'm also having some inkling that perhaps it was like septic regulations have to have a public hearing, and maybe it only applies to septic applications and related, but I don't see any reason to separate out, frankly, that from our other fees. May as well just do it at once and have a transparent process.
Yeah. And so if we do determine that a public hearing is required for at least the septic permit fee changes, or realistically, we would do it for all then. I think that would leave us two options. We could have that hearing in the setting of a standing meeting. Or we could have a special meeting as a standalone hearing just for this. For me, the difference would be how much public interest we would have, because if we were anticipating an hour's worth of public comment, I'm not sure that putting it in one of our standing meetings would be the most effective use of time. I actually have no idea if this is going to get a lot of public interest. I don't know if anybody else has any inclination, given that it's not that everything's just going up and it's going way up. Like everything has been very clearly thought out and well adjusted, and some fees are going down. But I think time-wise, regardless, I agree with Sarah's assessment, and I agree with, the consultation she had with our finance director, which is as we enter into budget season, being able to demonstrate the anticipation of added revenue to justify the or increase in ask, which again is reflective of a historic set of conditions and the amount of time that is actually spent providing service to the community. I think that would be prudent for us to be able to enact these permit fees. I mean, I think the start of 2026 is probably ambitious, but pretty soon into it is my hope. What do others think?
I'd also like to see, if it's possible, Sarah, to have a chart that shows the proposed new fee and what the fee was before, just so we know if there are ones that have gone up a lot more than others, and that might be something that people would have more questions about. Just to prep for a hearing.
So have an additional column with a percentage that shows the change?
Or just the prior fee and the new fee, something like that.
Yeah, that's what she presented as the last slide, which was very helpful. And maybe there would need to be, if it does go to a hearing and there's public posting, maybe some language around the three new fees. And maybe some, well, actually, if it's in a public paper, it has to be really short. You don't really have a lot of space, right? Maybe
That I
that.
believe you
and we
can
wouldn't-
summarize that the boards, if you're doing an ad, you need to do public notification. You can summarize that the fee regulations are being reviewed with amendments and pretty much summarize it quickly like that. Shorten it so that you're not paying a lot of money for the ad.
Yeah.
But if it's like our septic regs and other regs, we have to put in exactly what we're planning to have. So it would be basically the table. I don't think it should be the analytical tables and the background materials going in the paper. I think it should just be the final list of things that require fees and what the fee would be. Like the example proposed fee sheet that she had.
Yeah.
And I guess I missed on screen the chart that had the prior and proposed fee. I didn't know that was up there.
In the meeting documents, I only put the new list. I didn't include the comparison list. I don't know why I didn't do that, but I can send it after the meeting as well.
Okay. All right. That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. So I think we should, I think that Sarah and Mark and Jean will follow up on if there is a requirement to have a public hearing, if this is considered a regulatory change. And then I think we should circle back with that. My inclination would be, if it is in fact required, we need to move it forward. But I think that leaves the question of if it's a standalone hearing or if it's at a standing meeting. Anybody have a preference one way or another?
Hard to tell until I see if all the increases are not scary looking, to use a technical term. Then I think maybe we could do it within a meeting, since that's usually how others that are even more complicated have been handled, but avoid the need to schedule an additional meeting.
I think we also need to give some thought whether or not we publish the new fees ahead of the meeting, or do we just talk about it at the meeting, and how much public notice we give.
That's, if a public hearing is required, that is regulated and it requires 2 postings. Oh gosh, let's see if I can remember this. Daryl, do you think it has to be at least 2 weeks in advance of the hearing and then another 1 week in advance? It has to be posted 2 times prior to the hearing. And it has to be at minimum, I think, 1 week and then 2 weeks prior. Am I right, Daryl? Did I get it?
That's
Okay.
roughly it, but I don't recall if it's 20 days and 10 days or 1 week and
There's,
2
yeah.
week or 3 weeks and 1 week. Don't know.
We'd have
Don't
to go look it
remember.
up. It's a very regulated space, don't worry, as you could imagine. But that would have to be posted, and I think that's the take home that people would want to see is how are the fees changing? So I agree. Okay, so why don't we we'll have that on the next meeting for Sarah to kind of give us an update. And then we can kind of determine from there. And I think the other question would be whether or not, even if a public hearing is not required for this, would we want to electively still host one to invite public comment?
Mm. I'm just weighing whether it would have to be officially a public hearing, or maybe that's the only way to invite engagement versus it just being an agenda item where we discuss it and take public comment.
If I guess if we call it a hearing, we have to do the public postings, right? Which has a cost.
I'm not sure if it's voluntary to do a public hearing, other than we still have to follow all the rules of public hearings. I don't know.
That's a good question. All right. Sarah, that's the second part of the question. Is it required? If not, and we elect to do so anyways, are we required to follow the posting notification? Okay. Why don't we figure that out? I think it's well, I'll be surprised if we get to it in December, but maybe. Okay, why don't we move on to our other items? We only have a couple of things, which is great. So why don't we go to Mark, why don't we go ahead and go to the disposal works installer permits
Sure.
for 2026? We have 2. First is J. Hockman Inc. of Norfolk. Do you recommend approval? Are there any concerns there? Is this a renewal?
It's a renewal, and yes, I do recommend approval.
Okay. And the other is Paul's Title V Services of Rehoboth. Is that a renewal as well?
Yes, it is. They typically just do distribution boxes, and I recommend approval.
Okay. All right. Do these have to be 2 separate motions?
I'd suggest it.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the 2026 disposal works installer permit for J. Hockman Inc. of Norfolk?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Do I have a motion to approve the 2026 disposal works installer permit for Paul's Title V Services of Rehoboth?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Excellent. Let's go to the food establishment permits. I don't know if either Mark or Sarah, if either of you have heard or checked in with Tom. To any of these, we have 3 before us for Robin's Spicy Mix for a 1-day permit at Unity Farm on November 26th. We have Veg my Eats for 1-day permit at Unity Farm, also on the 23rd here in November. And one more at the same event, which is for Pianta. Thank you. Pianta, am I saying that correctly? Anybody? Also for Unity Farm. Were there any concerns or conditions?
I would just recommend they be approved conditional to the food inspector's final approval. That you approve them, but conditional to the final inspection or approval by the food inspector.
And Tom's
They
favorite,
have
and compliance with all applicable laws.
Okay. Yes.
So Robin's spicy spice mix has been approved by Tom, as has Vegemite's have both been approved by Tom via email. I can share those emails with the board if they so please. They are simple and say this can be approved. Pianata Restaurant has not yet provided their allergen awareness certificate,
Okay.
so we are unable to approve them at this time. They have been contacted. They were contacted on Friday, November 14th, for the certification record, and we have yet to receive it. So we did reach out for Tom for additional guidance on that. Have not heard back.
And what's the date of the event again?
Sunday.
The 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So maybe we should take them one at a time then. Or no, we could do them all together with the same condition that Mark recommended, right?
I would do 2 in 1, maybe.
2 and 1? Okay.
Just to imply that two of them don't have food inspector approval yet would kind of reflect negatively on them
Yeah.
when they are ready to go.
Okay. Let's do that then. Do I have a motion to approve the food establishment, the 1-day food establishment permits for Robin's Spicy Spice Mix and Veg My Eats at Unity Farm on November 23rd with full compliance with all applicable laws?
Okay, so moved.
Seconded.
Second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
And do I have a motion to approve the 1-day food permit for Pianta at Unity Farm on November 23rd, conditional to the food inspector's final approval in compliance with all applicable laws?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay. Sorry if I made that more confusing, guys. Next, we have the review of our November 5th meeting minutes. I submitted one with really a grammatical change, and that was it. The rest of it looked good to me. Did anyone submit edits of substantive change to the minutes?
I did. Sarah and I discussed them earlier today. For example, there was something included that I'm guessing was part of the AI generated portion that, having gone back and looked at the transcript and listened to our discussion, it was a very complicated phase of the meeting. And I think it included something that was a relatively minor point as kind of one of the main points. Perhaps just because it was the easiest to extract out from the conversation that was taking place, but I didn't think it really added to the value of the minutes. It's more an administrative aside that was discussed. So we went over some things like that and some condensing of things. And I don't know how you want to handle that because they were more, I don't think they, except for removing that one little bit, I don't think they were changing the meaning, just rearranging the presentation a bit to flow. Because, for example, we might be talking about a number of different things, A, B, and C, and the order in the minutes was A, C, B, and I don't know, I just moved things around to group things differently. I'm not sure how to explain that without actually looking at it.
Here, why don't I go ahead and share them? Do you remember what the agenda item is? Or with I'm sorry, agenda,
there was a
the
lot
number
of
item.
mixing and matching. It was 50 Old Orchard Road had some of that. If you go down just a little bit more, I could maybe find something that was a
I can
duplication.
pull up the edits if you would like.
Oh, that would be helpful. So my goal is that we can vote on them tonight because we have a really good record going, and I really like that.
Okay, so yeah, okay.
Yeah. Sarah will pull them up, and then that way it'll be easy for you to show us, Daryl. So we can
Yeah, I don't know if Sarah had time to go through and clean up my suggested edits. Yeah, but we just did that this afternoon.
I have not, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We can take a look. I know what I've noticed is many of the other regulatory boards do their minutes review like this in their meeting, which generally I don't feel like we should take the time to do, but it doesn't sound like you have anything too massive here, Daryl, so we could probably just look at it.
It looks like this is not showing like the strikeout. In addition,
I'm going to stop sharing for just a second.
okay.
Yeah. Well, Sarah's pulling that up. Did any other board members submit edits that were beyond grammar?
No.
No, and I haven't yet reviewed them.
Okay. Which is totally fine. We
Doesn't
only
help
need-
with your goal though, Julie.
Well, we only need a majority vote to approve them. And I'm very grateful to Sarah that she is getting the minutes out to us so quickly. Yeah, and I have the goal to keep us in compliance.
I think that the AI has contributed to the minutes. Not only has it simplified it for the administrator, but I think it's also reflected the way the conversation has gone, which I think has a value.
Mm.
And I found some parts, well, you'll see. Some things were good and straightforward, but when the discussion was not something that's a familiar thing, I didn't think it was easy.
So,
Is the red the addition, or what is? Can you clarify?
so
The red is the addition, yeah,
I will make
underlined red.
And
what I
then
can do is I can make the additions green. And then everything else, everything that's been stricken, I'll make them purple. Why do these all have low contrast? Blue. Okay, or not.
it's okay. It's if we know that red underline is add and red stricken is subtract, Yes,
Yes.
we got it.
The sentence, this revealed that under Title V, a 4-bedroom septic can have no more than 9 rooms.
So that was further down here. But again, the minutes don't have to exactly follow the flow of, unless you're claiming that your minutes are verbatim, as opposed to just making it simpler to discuss the, this is kind of
But don't you
setup
think
of
that's
what's going on.
valuable for a person reading the minutes? I think that's valuable for a person who has no idea what Title V says. It might be helpful, and if it was stated, why not just leave it there?
No, it is, I just moved it up. The yellow,
Oh, sorry.
it's the same thing. It's just moved up so that it kind of sets you up for what the situation is. Here's what they have, here's when the system was built, and by the way, they only could have 9 rooms. So that was the point there. Do you want me to just quickly run through some of this? Or, I crossed out slider because we look at small windows, whether they're slider or kind of pull out or push out or don't open at all. It's size in particular, or no windows, which we mentioned. So this is kind of a mix of options up here. So I cross that out and it's all captured there. So if it just starts with board members discussed, blah, 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 including, and then it goes right to these. And I only crossed out first, second, and third because that almost implied a ranking of them, like the first preferred. So I thought it was better to not have that and just list them. And then some of our other discussion, the finished space, clarified that. These are statements that Julie and I had made about, this person is saying, look, we bought this house and it had passed Title V. The part of it was saying, yep, sometimes things happen that weren't recorded and properly reviewed. So yes, now you're in a difficult situation. And then Julie explained about Title V. These are just kind of little changes. I think I forget where the next. I was just trying to, again, simplify some of the issues. Sometimes it was plucking out something that wasn't flowing as easily. And to match with the letter a little bit more. But they were all things that were mentioned. Oh, this is the part that, I had misremembered when a comment took place, and that really was administrative. That wasn't a big deal. It was just about whether anyone wanted to include that point or not. A little bit of value there, but sort of not essential. And I think this, what's on the screen that is previously noted, on-site water supply and wastewater treatment. I think that was just in a different part of this whole flow.
Okay.
I don't remember if there's anything else.
Those changes look okay to me as proposed. I see what's being done here. I think you're right. It is substantive, but I understand what's happening. It's okay for me.
And that part crossing out of that was just an aside, and not the whole story about the person with ticks on their suit. you know, that was about a warmer climate, but I didn't know that it was worth in the minutes, including all that and filling in the rest of the details to flesh out that anecdote.
I think this is Sarah who's sharing. Sarah, could you scroll on to page 5 of 6, please? Is that where that was? Yep, okay, and excellent, and 6 of 6. Maybe that's still 4
I
of
think
6.
it's tricky because the reality is the minutes are supposed to be what we said, and I mean, we could all rewrite the minutes, but in the past, I was told I couldn't write things better. So I think we need to figure out what we want to do.
Things don't have to be verbatim, but they have to reflect what was said.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time reading the transcript and listening and listening and listening over and over again today. So it's probably not perfect, but some of the things I didn't think were kind of important to them capturing the minutes. And right, everyone has a different perspective. This was mine.
How much detail is needed to capture, I think is what the question is being asked. And certainly.
And also I view it as, what are people going to, given that it's not everything, because then it would be 15 pages long if it was everything. So people don't want to spend that amount of time reading. So I do think there has to be some amount of synthesis and presenting the high points and making it flow so people could understand it. You know, again, the ticks, why was I talking about ticks in North Carolina? Researchers, and that was all about, as climate has changed, what happened in warmer areas is now happening here. That was the point of that. But that was just to share with you. Interesting little tidbit, who knows? But for the purposes of the minutes, it would have to be 3 times as long in the minutes, and it's not. I didn't think it was worth it.
Sarah, can you continue to scroll down, please? Let's see if is there anything else, Daryl, do you remember? Looks like the rest is just little. And that is it. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna make a motion to approve the November 5th minutes with the submitted edits as reviewed here at the meeting. Yep, that's gonna be fine. I'm going to motion to approve the November 5th minutes with submitted edits as reviewed. Do I have a second to my motion?
Seconded.
Further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, I guess I need to abstain.
Sure.
I will also abstain.
Okay. We have a vote of 3 to 0 to 2, and so minutes are approved and ready for being posted.
I just want to clarify, that means that you would like me to just like accept all of the edits that have been proposed to the minutes here. I just want to make sure that I do the right thing here.
Yes.
Okay, even though given that Sarah didn't have time, we reviewed these and she had a few suggestions of some tweaks to make.
Yeah, I was just gonna go back and make sure that like we weren't adding anything that hadn't been said. So
I keep trying to scroll this. It's not my screen.
sorry, I can scroll.
That's okay. That's okay. It's my own habit. It's the push-pull thing on a door. It's in looking at it, it looks like most of what you had suggested, Daryl, was taking out kind of tangents to the conversation. And you were trying to kind of streamline the heart of the conversation, particularly around the ticks and the MIPA letter.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw, and I was looking, any additions that looked like it wasn't then potentially just summarizing in a different way information that had been taken out.
There was a few points, specifically around 50 Old Orchard that we were talking about. Just the language about the conditions of the plan, that neither Daryl nor I could remember off the top of our heads what was really said. Specifically, if the decision was to have it be labeled as a kitchen room, or I mean, as a pool house room, or if we had said pool house room with cabinets, or what specifically was said. And I haven't had time to go back and watch the recording to clarify that.
I think, hang on, let's pull up. Okay, we've moved and approved the minutes. What I would say, Sarah, is if you go back to clarify that point, because it looked okay to me, but I didn't go and watch the minutes. If you go back to clarify the point about how something is to be labeled and what the minutes captured is different than what you hear in the recording, then that should come back as a revision for us to review and approve at the next meeting.
Okay, gotcha.
But otherwise, if it's consistent and it looks good, the minutes are approved and can be posted with the edits.
Right, and
So
I have to think more when I'm speaking about some of those things, because I think I did say it should be labeled as a pool room. And in my mind, I was thinking kind of cabinet, kind of a comma, it just happens to have cabinets in it. But we never label a room kitchen with cabinets, so I never thought that would be the label. So anyway, but you can figure it out, Sarah.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
whatever your
I'll just
opinion
go
is
back
on
and
that.
double check again, because I do watch them after the AI goes through them. But would it be appropriate? I'm just asking procedure here for me to apply these edits, post the minutes as soon as possible, and then go back through and check for edits? Or is it more appropriate for me to check for edits, and then if I don't find any, post them, and if I do find them, bring them back to the board for the December meeting?
Yes, the latter. So
Okay.
the edits as outlined here in, I had one small thing. It was like a grammatical thing. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
But the red underline addition and the red cross out, we've reviewed that here. Those can be incorporated into the final version. The one clarification you wanted to make to verifying the meeting for the description of the pool house. If you feel that the minutes do not accurately capture the decision of the board or the discussion in your review of them, then it shouldn't be posted. You should come back with a proposed revision, and then we will review it and then re-vote on it. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. And we're still well within the open meeting law requirements on timeline. Sorry, maybe I got over eager and trying to get those approved tonight, but I was excited. I'm really appreciative, Sarah, how quickly these are coming out. Okay, and it looks like the last thing we have is just to talk about the agenda for our December meeting. We're in December already. One thing that I've asked is that we can review a draft of the 2026 meeting schedule and hopefully vote to approve that. That will be needed for variance hearings as we move into the new year for a butter notification. So it'll be important that we get that schedule finalized. I think Sarah was going to come back to us with an update on if the permit fees in fact require a public hearing. Right. And if they do not require a public hearing and we elect to have a hearing anyways, is the notification, the public notification still needed?
I think,
That can
I
just
mean, I
be an
think there
email.
are things that we are able to do as a board without, because our meetings are open meetings and obviously we're discussing an open meeting, that we don't have to have a specific hearing for. So it would be valuable to know if that's one of the things.
I could also just send an email that says, yes, we need to have a public hearing, or no, we don't, and just line copy everybody.
Okay, yeah, why don't you go ahead? Let's do that. Why don't you send an email and then we'll figure out timeline of this. I think I like that better actually. Okay.
I would also say if the answer is that no, we don't need a public hearing, it might be worth finding out whether other boards and committees have public hearings for any fee changes they make, just so that we're kind of consistent with the involvement of the community and taking input into something that is, significant impact on people.
I can do that as well.
That's a good point. Do we have any scheduled variance hearings for our first December meeting?
I don't believe so. Mark,
I don't think we do.
Actually, Concom has mentioned recently that they're surprised that they're having meetings without variance hearings too, or hearings.
It's been quiet, but it's going to get busy. We're out soil testing quite a bit right now.
What was the other thing I need to mention? A budget. Whether we'll be ready to discuss the budget next time. I'm kind of have mixed feelings. One is I don't think it should be the last meeting in December because we have to have an answer by then. So should we have a review just in case there are questions, or having the budget worked on, have more time to just work on it and then look at it at the last meeting in December, as in the second meeting in December? Will that be getting something that's more final? Would that be easier process-wise? Or get us
Steve,
into
you want to take this one, or you want me to?
Yeah, so Sarah and I are meeting tomorrow. And I know we've got a scheduled meeting with Jeremy December 12th. And then between that time is when we would plan on presenting to the board what the budget would be. Does that make sense?
Okay. Oh, so at the first December meeting then? Whatever
Yeah,
that
I'm
date
actually
is.
gonna throw that in there at the
So
end of
so
the
if you,
meeting.
right, so if it's
Okay.
December
Yeah.
3rd, right, I think we should be ready.
Okay. All right. Great.
Sounds excellent. Okay, so we will have the budget preview, review, overview at the next meeting. And anything else that anyone can think of? Otherwise, if you have agenda items, get them to Sarah no later than the Friday before the meeting. All right, do I have a...
The other thing that could be is an email we got today, so without going into detail, about a new farm road proposal. We might
Mark,
discuss that at the next meeting.
Mark, did you want to put the geothermal well?
In discussion, maybe when we start doing regulation review, it's pretty much no different from like approving a deck where there's a distance constraint. So Geothermal wells are more for distance constraints that I review it for, and
Okay.
I know I've passed them by the board in the past, but I think we'll be okay with that at this point.
Okay.
And someday, maybe if it becomes a regulation, then obviously it will get to the board. But right now, it's just location, just to make sure that geothermal wells do not interfere with the septic system of the well.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I wasn't forgetting any.
Excellent. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second,
There's no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Happy
a good
Thanksgiving, everyone.
I
Happy
just want
Thanksgiving,
to
thanks.
Thanksgiving, yes.
let everyone know that I will be out of the office on Wednesday next week. I'll be back home in Pennsylvania, but I will be working from home. I am technically taking personal time on Wednesday. But I'll be on my email, probably doing some budget stuff before family stuff, and I will be working from home regularly scheduled on Friday.